okay, I'm 48. I need to live.
Be healthy.
But I know I need to live, like, meaning like the days of me grinding and trying to hustle, the hard grind is over for me. Cutler Cast, episode 19. We're back. A little hiatus from our New Year's and a little bit of sickness for me.
Really? What'd you have?
I don't know. I never got tested.
Yeah, but it seemed like everybody, it seemed like everyone I know in the last month, and it's not just here in the States, like people that I know that live in Europe, in the Middle East, in Australia. Like one of my friends, I was messaging her last night. She lives in New Zealand. She's sick. Everywhere in the world, people are sick right now.
You know, I usually get the thing once a year, so I think hopefully that was my one and done. And, you know, it's been a while since I actually was laid up. But for the first time, I really couldn't even do a lot. You know, my throat was so bad. So I think it was more strep throat. But, you know, I took a Z-Pack, and I was recovered in about 3 days. And, you know, just being careful since then. I was unfortunate. I missed that appearance for Chris Lewis, and you know, had a photo shoot lined up, so that was the first time in 30 years I've ever missed anything.
I know. I was going to say I can never remember. I know you've missed shit because of like
flights,
delayed or weather or something like that's happened, but I can never think back to a time where you could not show up to an event because of an illness.
Yeah, but you know what? Society was they had a little more leniency on people being sick at that point. Like it seems like now if you cough in public or you know, you're wheezing or whatever else, people look at you sideways. So people have their opinions, and you know, we're going to a state which, you know, California is kind of a disaster, right? I mean, they're very, very strict about it. It doesn't seem like, you know, Vegas isn't you know, I'm getting a lot of people hitting me up about like, hey, what's it like there, you know, because all over the world, you know, I hear from people and they're asking, you know, hey, what are your restrictions and this and that? And, you know, I live in like my circle, like I go to an office and I go to the grocery store and whatever near me. And it doesn't seem like it's that restrictive. I mean, I'm following the respectful guidelines, but at the same time, like, I don't feel that we really have a lot of restrictions here. Like they just had SHOT Show here and things are happening. So I think, you know, what I was saying to someone yesterday, you know, I did an interview because, you know, obviously the contest season is starting. And I said, you know, I think this will be the most explosive year for fitness and bodybuilding, because I feel like everyone either has confidence that these shows are going to take place, or they're just like, you know what, screw it. A lot of places are just like, we're just going to continue to run it.
Yeah.
They don't want to cancel.
Yeah. No, here in Vegas, it's weird. Like, even if you go into the casino, which I don't do, we went out, had dinner. Dan Solomon was here for his birthday. And even when you walk into the casino, they'll say, here's a mask. And you'll say, yeah, okay, thank you. You put it in your pocket, and no one says anything to you.
Yeah.
They just leave you alone.
See, I'm not arrogant like that. Like, I understand there's mandates of like they're requesting. So I'm not trying to stir up. I mean, I've kind of gotten over the thing, but like I told you, I'm not trying to put myself in positions where it's necessary for me to wear it. So I've resisted traveling as much. And remember, January, they were supposed to lift the mask mandate on the planes. I mentioned that. Not happened yet, because obviously this other variant supposedly is there, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it's more of a flu than anything. I mean, it seems like everyone getting sick.
I don't know. Like after nationals, everyone got sick that went down there. I went down there. I definitely had something come into my body, but I haven't been really sick in like 15 years. And whenever I feel like a little soreness in my throat or a little tightness in my chest, I always 5 times the vitamins. And I take like a strict vitamin regimen. For as much as we travel, we have to keep our immune system higher. We'd be sick all the time. And whatever came into my body, it never really transpired in anything sick. But I definitely know something came into me. But I don't know. It just
I think being hidden away and not having the interaction because of the quarantines and stuff, it affects a lot of people, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people get sick. But you know, I'm just happy it's over. You know, I got back on track. I was careful coming back, and the question is do you continue to train when you're sick? And the truth is yes, I always did. You know, I can't imagine how many Arnold expos I went to, or you know, think about that time of year. It's like the dead of winter, right, in Columbus. And I remember going there feeling sick and whatever else, but I had appearances to do, and no one, you know, I would tell people I'm not feeling that well. If there was any comments like, hey, you don't look as you know, chipper as normal or whatever else, which I really wasn't, because those expos, they were lengthy expos, but I just always, you know, just sucked it up and went through it, which now today, because society's turned into a little pussy atmosphere, I feel like you can't go in there and
if you're sniffled, people will stare at you.
So you know, like I said, the world's kind of a messed up place at this point, and I
always followed the rule of thumb: if you're sick from the neck up, train, meaning sinuses, congestion. But from the neck down, depending on how bad it is, if you push yourself too hard, it'll get worse. But that was always a rule of thumb.
I never had time. I mean, even when I tore my bicep, you know, I had the surgery, and like I was back in the gym within a week, you know, doing, you know, the other arm or training legs, or, you know, obviously I couldn't do anything that the shoulders were kind of in rotation, but, you know, I was always right back at it. So I was never resistant to that. And to this day, you know, I found myself back in the gym doing a little cardio. I mean, I had to get the food back in because, you know, people don't eat a lot when they're sick, although, you know, I was only nauseous for a couple of days. But my suggestion is always try to at least force feed yourself, and more importantly, get back to the gym as soon as you can.
So when you started, so you stayed home for a couple of days, but then you didn't like go to the gym, but you just went into your garage and you did a little cardio and walked outside.
Yeah, and the fortunate thing for me is, like, you know, I said, okay, I'm going to distance myself so I don't get anyone else sick. And I train at a lot of gyms that don't know. I go to times no one's actually in the gym. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know, you are training by yourself. Yeah. And that's the you know, the really cool thing about being in Las Vegas and having that option. I was talking about that on YouTube last night when I was shooting a video with Dave. And I was like, you know, I trained at Powerhouse, and, you know, you have so many EOSs and LVACs and, you know, Lift Factory near me, Kilo Club. And then you come down this way and you got Fit Club and Dragons and all that stuff. You have so many different options. I mean, literally you could train for a month straight, I think, and not train at the same gym twice. Yeah. That's how crazy Vegas atmosphere has gotten. And, you know, that allows you to, you know, stay away from people, whatever else. But we took a small break from, you know, all the discussions. You know, New Year's has come and gone. We're in 2022 now. New goals. A lot of people set new goals. We don't really have, like, the goal setting thing, although, like, I like to think of the year as like, okay, this is a fresh start. You know, what's going to come of it, right? I mean, what are we really looking forward to in 2022? And I had a lot of people hit me up about business. Like, what's your business goal for 2022? And to be honest, I mean, it's just continuous growth. It's really hard to transition and think, well, I'm going to gather that much more overseas business, because that's still a little stagnant because a lot of places are still closed. But business-wise, like, you know, there's always new ventures and whatever else. I mean, I'm eyeing a couple things right now, but it's just focusing on what's successful, and basically anything that I brand is successful. So my goal is just to continue with the trend and keep firing on all cylinders, you know. So
do you want to continuously do the same things you're doing, or are you, like, looking to venture into different things that are different from what you're doing?
It's hard to say. I mean, I could tell you today that, you know, I'm not interested in doing anything else, but then something comes across in 4 days or a month, and it looks exciting to me, and you know, there's always opportunity. But, you know, especially with the markets the way they are, you know, meeting with my financial advisor and talking about, you know, a lot of the digital world and where the stock market's going, and you know, we talk about, like, even, you know, everything, supply chain is weak right now. So cars are expensive, and you know, just normal food items. Production is hard for a lot of the brands, which, you know, I've been able to stay ahead of that.
I was just going to say, so supply chain is affecting everything in the world. And you hear, and I know there's, you know, I know a lot of people that own supplement brands, and a lot of these companies are, it's like strangling them. But for some reason, you're not as affected as bad as some of these other brands are. Why do you think that is?
I have a really good supply chain person, meaning I have a guy in place that stays ahead of ingredients and, quality control of what I'm kind of doing. So I think that is a plus. My manufacturer, I do a lot of stuff with Jay Wolf Dynamic out in North Carolina. He's really, really good at staying on top. And obviously I'm making protein in California, but, remember I bought protein at a really good price in abundance. And although it destroyed my cash flow, I was able to secure that. So I did not have that issue and I wasn't scrambling because the price has gone up drastically. And although I haven't that hasn't spilled over to the consumer, meaning I haven't raised my prices a lot. That's kind of what I've done because obviously we plan on this ending, right? But I think the question is now, is it going to, is it going to continue?
I think, we had dinner with someone, the other night that's pretty tied into a lot of manufacturing, the easiest way to say it. And he said the people that he was talking to said a minimum of 3 years, but most likely up to 5 years before when the world shut down for a certain period, and then it only slowly started bringing the production back up. It's going to take 3 years to catch up to that production that they missed to get back there if nothing else happens. But then the world's growing more, population's going up, so the demand's becoming more and more. So that's where he said 3 to 5 years until they're able to catch back up. And this isn't that's just the industry he's in, and he's in a very well-known industry. But he said this is going to be all industries across the board. So who in the fitness world, just because that's where we are, who in this fitness world is planning that far ahead saying, I need to make sure things are lined up in advance so I don't run into these issues?
Now, you just wonder, because on a big scale, I feel like I'm on a bigger scale because I have production business, right? But what about the average consumer, like the people that, go to the grocery store, they're raising a family and they have automobiles that are, sufficient on gas, and the gas prices go up, and then, they're trying to feed their children, and then they have health insurance. And then the jobs, aren't necessarily raising income to be able to, really supply these people with the benefits of, how hard they work.
Yeah.
When does it really start to take a toll on those people?
I think it already has. I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a large portion of America, and the world in general, operates a paycheck to paycheck. And if you budget, I can think back to when I was a child, we only had less than $50 a month that was expendable for us. And if you now, because of inflation and supply chain issues, that $50 could get swallowed to where you might need $70 or $80 to do the same thing. So there's going to be a lot of people, and I'm sure there already is. There's a lot of people that are getting strangulated by this. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. And I don't know the answer to fix those things, but it
but you have to make adjustments in your life. It's one of those things that a lot of people talk about is when you reach, I'm going to give an example of a pro bodybuilder with a contract, right? We get spoiled with automatic pay, meaning when you sign a deal, for example, when I signed with Joe Weider for, $5,000 a month, it was guaranteed, and it was a year-to-year contract, but I knew that money was coming, and, I could create a budget based on that. Right. Yeah. And then that continues for year on end, and then all of a sudden you wake up and your bodybuilding career is over. No one's giving you paychecks anymore. So you got into a certain lifestyle where, either you sat on the couch and watched TV, your job was to go to the gym and train, your job was to eat, spend money to do that. Now you have to adjust, and a lot of people have a hard time adjusting, going back and saying, okay, I need to actually earn this money in a different sense, meaning I have to equate time a day, which I was spending training and eating, into, putting it towards, whatever your profession is, right? Or waking up. So that's why I always I always encourage everyone, never get satisfied with the money you make. It doesn't matter what level it is. And I have that question arise to me often, like, why do you continue to do what you do? Mm-hmm. And I think we spoke about it on one of the things. Well, my biggest fear is being broke, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, I've just learned to never be satisfied. And I think that really comes from my upbringing and being around my brothers and working in a family business, because, as successful as you become, you never can take that for granted. And I feel like I was blessed to be able to bodybuild and be paid with multiple endorsements, even still to this day. Like, I mean, I'm more of a social media person than I am like a professional bodybuilder. Like, that kind of past it's been so long since I competed. I don't even think about really the competitions anymore. And I look at, the opportunities and, and branding and whatever else. And, sometimes, I look around and say, do I really need to do this? Mm-hmm. But I continue to do it because, it gives me, number one, something to do, but number two, like, for me, it's just like leaving the mark, Yeah.
I think two things I want to say to what you were just talking about. I think one of the biggest things is not many people live within their means, and you could be someone that's making $3,000 a month. And I hear this all the time. It doesn't matter at what scale. And if all of a sudden you're making $5,000 a month, people automatically go, well, I'm making $2,000 more. I need to get a bigger car. I need to get a nicer watch. I need to get a bigger TV. I need a bigger house. I need this. Instead of going, hey man, why don't I take that money and do something with it and help make $6,000 a month or $7,000 or $8,000, but still live within my means? Sure, you can do things here and there and splurge, but so many people will make a certain amount of money and they'll look and go, well, I got this contract for 2 years. I'm getting $10,000 a month. And they live as someone who makes $10,000 a month. And then when their contract's up, they're screwed because they don't have that revenue coming and their bills
what if
are
their
not.
Contract never ends?
Well, you should still always live within your means. I've always felt this. You should always, your monthly bills, and this is a luxury, but you should always keep your monthly bills lower than to what you can make in a week. So if something happens and you miss a paycheck or you miss, money doesn't come in, you can still pay your bills. And I know not everybody can do that, but a lot of people could, but they don't want to, they want to have their life at a certain level.
Yeah, but I feel that some people need the pressure of spending to be more successful. Does that make sense?
I think if they're like that, this is just my opinion, I think that's a weak mindset, but you should be.
But you got to live your life. That's
of course. But I'll give you an example. If someone makes $5,000, you get a $5,000 bonus. Me knowing you, if you got a $5,000 bonus 15 years ago, you wouldn't have went and bought a $5,000 purse or bought something crazy for a girlfriend or so. You wouldn't have spent it on that. You would have done something with it productive that could maybe make you $1,000 a month. You would have done something like
see, I don't remember being in that situation. I mean, I told you in the beginning, mm-hmm. I had $20 a week to eat out. Mm-hmm. That was my extra. So there was a time
when you were real tight.
Yeah, budget. So I had $20, but dude, you could go eat for 2 people and spend $20. Oh,
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a
chicken
freaking
Happy
Meal. That was I'll tell you what the meal was every week. It was a piece of lasagna, which was like $7. Uh-huh. It was huge. And then it was like a chicken filet sandwich. Mm-hmm. That's what we would eat and then have a diet soda or whatever with it. And it was $20 with a tip and everything.
Yeah.
So I remember those days. And then when I moved to California and I was a 6-figure salary guy, I still only allowed myself to eat out once a week.
But you could have easily ate out every meal if you wanted.
I could,
technically,
but
you could have afforded it.
To be honest, I mean, I was kind of strapped with cash moving from coast to coast.
Yeah.
And buying a bedroom set, buying a nice television, decorating a one-bedroom apartment. When here I was, I spent $15,000 on between couches, bedroom set, television, media, all that stuff because I didn't have anything.
You start scratch.
Yeah, so So I did spend money, and then, you know, I slowly started to make more money, and that allowed me the freedom to be able to do that. So people used to say like, hey man, like, why don't you spend more money? And the truth is I was scared, like you said. I didn't want to get too far ahead, but then it got to the point where, you know, the contracts started to come in, the prize money started to come, and the guest appearances started. And, you know, for me, it was almost like routine.
You did it. But even now, you're very successful. If your income got cut in half, would your life change? As far as how you live your life?
It would change, but I wake up now more, and my mindset is this, like, okay, I'm 48. I need to live.
Be healthy.
But I know I need to live, like, meaning like the days of me grinding and trying to hustle, the hard grind is over for me. Like, I don't want to.
You don't need to do it.
No, I don't need to, but I know how to work a little smarter now. So like we talk about with brands, like I'm not trying to go out there and sort new deals or chase like new ventures. So this conversation started with like, what are your plans for 2022? And it's like, continue with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So there's that means, so if an opportunity comes about, like, you know, NFT projects or, you know, something with the cannabis where it's a branding thing, like coming out with a strain or whatever else, or launching new products, which we have new products launching.
Those are things that
new shows like the Boston Pro that we talk about, like adding more to the current menu.
Yeah.
That's what I'm focused on.
Yeah.
Like not trying to, you know, Joe calls us up and has a deal for us.
Yeah.
Like on an outside source of business that is an iffy thing. Like that's not something that I'm like,
you don't need to take the risk.
About. Yeah. There's less risks, if that makes sense.
You know, years ago, I remember listening to an interview, and this always stuck with me. T.I. did an interview, and he was talking about his eldest daughter, and she was going off to college, and he's a very well-known, wealthy guy. And she's like, Dad, I want this penthouse in this area. It's $3,000 a month. We can afford it. And he said to his daughter, no, I can afford it, but I can only afford it until I can't afford it anymore. And that resonated with me. People see the money coming in and they know they can afford it, but they don't realize that money might not be there forever. So you still gotta live your life, but you still don't need to go above to where if a small thing happens in life or if you take a small downtick, which we've all done it, every one of us has taken a pay cut in our life or whatever, it shouldn't stress your life out that bad. I mean, you don't want it to happen, but when he made that comment, it made me, I think about that often. Okay, if I make another $1,000 a month, does that mean I should go spend $1,000 more? No. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't every once in a while go do something you enjoy, but just be smart with your money. And I think a lot of people we know, they look at social media and they see people posting, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. And they feel that if they don't have that they're not successful or they're not happy in life. And I see that a lot. And I hear it a lot too.
I think a lot of people look out for their children though too.
Yes.
Like that's something that I can't really speak on, right? Because I don't have any children. I don't plan to have any children. So for a lot of these people that are building business, their concern is, okay, I need to concern myself with the children.
And I can pass this to my kids.
Yes.
And then they're good.
But it's also being a figurehead and being a role model for your children also, and trying to create like a great environment, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, you know, a lot of people look forward to. Like, I want to build this for, you know, the generations.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's where like a lot of people's concern is.
And it should be. I mean, I don't have kids. I have nieces. I actually have a great nephew. And I don't have kids of my own, but yeah, I can't speak on that.
And when I was traveling, you know, in my heyday, you know, what I notice now though is the flights aren't as expensive. Like I just booked a couple to go to New York for an event, and you know, I thought the flights were going up tremendously, but it wasn't too bad actually. The flight schedule and whatever else, they may have canceled some flights or whatnot. But you know, when I was traveling every single week, it seemed like, you know, that was it was a huge income for, you know, fitness people to attend these events, which I think it's becoming a little more scarce now.
Yeah. For a couple reasons.
I mean, you're booking events, but is it as in abundance?
Yes and no. Years ago, I think anyone who was kind of a top pro, there was always stuff going on for everybody. You were in a different category because you and Ronnie were legitimately booked 40 plus weekends out of the year. It was you had to budget in travel schedule every week with your life because that's what you had done. There's expos and stuff that happen now, but there's only certain people they go after. And they go after the people that they know are going to do the marketing, are going to draw a crowd, and they're going to see a ROI. You know, you've never experienced this because no matter where you've gone, you've always been an ROI no matter where you go. But there's a lot of people that have many world titles, have millions of followers on social media, and you bring them to an event and they'll only post it one time. And they'll be difficult to work with and they'll show up late. And these promoters talk to each other and they get tired of it. So at some point, a lot of these expo promoters or show promoters that book guest appearances or guest posings, there's only a certain group of people they go after. Like if you wanted right now, right now, if we wanted, you could be booked every weekend.
I know, but how does a new person become booked at these events?
Do
they have to win? Do they have to be social media people? What makes someone get at the phone call nowadays?
They have to have a real value. They have to create a brand.
What's the value?
The value is if I book Jay Cutler to come to an event and I pay you, say, $1,000 to show up, that I'm going to get $1,000 in return, meaning you're going to promote the hell out of the event. You're going to show up. You're going to go above and beyond. And your brand is strong enough to where people will drive to see you. Otherwise, why am I bringing
I know,
you?
but can you create that, or is that something that's just,
yes,
it takes time?
It takes time, but you have to create it on your own. You can't expect somebody else to do it for you. You know, like I'll give you an example. I'll give you two names, Cass Martin and Mike Rashid. Neither of them are pros. Neither of them have world titles, but they went to, for years, Mike grinded his ass off, and so did Cass. Every weekend they were somewhere. I know, but
what did they do in the background to make themselves popular besides?
They did the content on social media. Mike Rashid did the YouTube videos. He's got his podcast. He did challenges. He was constantly out there in people's faces, and he built his value up.
And they look good too, though, right?
Yeah, but he had professional stuff. It wasn't just some sloppy work. He had a professional film guy with him everywhere he went. Cass she didn't have a professional film person like that, but she was, every weekend we were somewhere, she was there too.
I know, but she had to create the brand in order to get there. So what do you think it is? Social
media
filming?
starts.
You have to be behind a camera. You have to film yourself working out.
I'll give you an example. Like Regan's not Mr. Olympia right now. He has 3 pro wins. He's not the top guy out there. He gets as many requests as anyone in the industry. And it's because he's really good on social media. He will show up. He'll do the work. He'll post as much as needed. Yarishna is not Miss Olympia. She did 3 appearances last month. You know, there's people that don't do 3.
Yeah, but these are your people. So let's talk about people that aren't your people.
Well, they're my people for a reason. I'm
not
sure of that.
But I mean, you're talking about people. You're trying to promote your own people. No. But I'm saying, who else? There's more
Walker.
People that go to expos.
Nick Walker has created a good brand for himself. He does the YouTube videos, and I don't work with Nick. He does the YouTube videos. He's on social media every day. He replies to people. He comments back to people, and he's built a brand. What about
Mike O'Hearn?
Mike O'Hearn's the same way. But Mike O'Hearn has 30 years like you do of being on magazine covers, and he's widely known.
Yeah, but he's not an IFBB pro.
He's not, but he has... He's also done the social media stuff. He's got the YouTube channels. He filmed every day with all the top people. He went to all the expos, even when they weren't. Not every offer is a big offer. Sometimes, even now, sometimes if it's something that you or someone like Mike wants to go to, even if the numbers aren't where they were at one point, if they're a little bit less, you might take that and go, you know what, I need to be in front.
But everyone has different demographics. What about Cali Muscle?
He did a lot. He used to go to a lot more appearances. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him at a lot of
by his choice,
expo.
Though. I think
by his choice, but he's another one.
He's a lot like I am. He's just refusing stuff.
He's on social media every day. And it doesn't cost you anything to do it. You can be active every day.
You're saying everyone needs to sit behind a camera. Everyone needs to make content.
They need to make content is everything now.
I mean, that's what's kept me alive.
Yes. Content
just being on social media and
what's done it for you is not just content. Look, you're on JTV on a regular basis. You're on your storylines pretty much every day.
Yeah.
You got a podcast. You film with other people when they come to town. You find a way to stay in front of people. Another example is Dana Lynn Bailey. She hasn't done a show in 7 years, 8 years, similar to you. Been every day. She's talking
about coming back though.
She has, but every day they film some type of content, whether it's for DLB Daily, whether it's for Flag Nor Fail, every day there's some type of content that goes out. And if you're constantly putting out information and you're constantly putting stuff out that can help somebody, they're going to gravitate to you and they're going to buy your products. And if you do an appearance an hour away, they're going to go, you know what? I want to meet this person. They've made a difference in my life. So there's, you have to be super active. But if you're someone who does one post a week, and you do stuff here or there, and people have to ask you over and over and over to do stuff, you don't have any value. I'm just being a blunt.
So you're basically telling people, get on your social media, get on your...
It doesn't cost you anything.
Get a YouTube channel.
Yes.
I mean, I've been saying that for years.
Yes, get a YouTube channel.
But you have to be comfortable in front of the camera. What if you're not comfortable in front of the camera? You got to train yourself.
You got to practice. I have people that I've had with brands, and they've told me I'm not comfortable. And I would tell them, hey, here, I'm going to send this to you. Do this. Just send it to me. We're not going to post it online.
Yeah, but you don't even like to be behind a camera.
I hate it.
But you refuse interviews for podcasts and whatever else, right?
I don't like being on camera. I never have. I've been like this for 15 years. But I know my role. But I've done this because it's you and I, and it's something I'm trying to become more comfortable with.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time to go on podcasts. I just say no. I don't really want to. But content is king, and if you don't do the content, somebody else is going to, and that person's going to blow up. How many people do we know? Take a Bradley Martin. Has he ever even competed?
Yeah, he has.
Has he? I didn't know if he has or hasn't.
But I think he's a pro.
Is he? I have no idea.
I think he's a pro men's physique guy.
I'm not sure. I mean, he doesn't market it.
He's got a great physique.
But he's got a great physique, but he is constantly on the content, the YouTube, podcast.
He's good with a camera, though.
He is. But he also,
he looks great.
Like you do, and like Mike Rashid does, you guys don't just do your content. You go on other people's content, too. That grows your brand. So there's times where people will come in town, and you'll message me and say, hey, so-and-so's coming in town. I'm going to film with him. He's a YouTuber, or he's a TikToker, or this or this. But there's a lot of other people that are trying to build their brand that won't make the time to do that.
Very competitive, though.
Yeah. But you find a way to stay in front of people, and that matters. And I think the people that don't do that, they're selling themselves short.
Are you still reaching out to try to manage more people?
No. I haven't.
I know, but do you only take the superstars, or?
I don't take anybody. It's everything's a unique situation. And for me, I've spent many years kind of learning what works and what doesn't work. Like, there's some superstar people in the industry that I'm sure if I wanted to work with them, I could, but I'm not trying to.
Do you think people need a manager, though, or someone to talk to?
I think everybody should have someone in their corner that
I
they
feel
can
like
get
the companies.
advice from.
I think the companies, though, do not like to speak to someone like you.
Of course, because I'm going to make them be fair, and it's on their side.
I know, but you're saying the companies are unfair.
Some are, some aren't. As long as it's fair, we all know people who have done deals, and you look at it and think, holy shit, this is terrible.
I never liked someone else doing my deals for me, though.
Yeah, you're unique. You will do your deal, but you'll bounce it off me and other people, and we'll give our input. But just like, look, even with anyone I work with, I don't make the decision for anybody. I'll go through it and say, here's the pros, here's the cons. This is your career. You need to tell me what you want. And if this is a direction you want to go, I'm going to make sure that this direction, that you're in the contract, that you're taken care of properly, and I'm going to make sure it's done correctly. But you need to make that decision. I've never made a decision for anyone, even you. How many times have I ever said, this is what you're doing, Jay? No. Yeah. Say, here, this is in front of you. Do you want to do it, yes or no? And if you tell me
but
no,
I just say no now to
you say no to
things.
everything.
Yeah.
But if something comes along and I say, here it is, if it makes sense, you'll say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'll do it. You know, but there's a lot of people out there, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, especially with athletes and with their coaches now. And there's a lot of athletes that don't think for themselves. You know, when you'll say, hey, you know, are you doing this show? Or are you doing this or this? They'll go, well, I have to find out from my coach if I can. I'm like, you know, what do you mean you're going to find out from your coach if you can do this or what you're going to do? This is your career. You tell your coach what you're going to do, and your coach is to diet you and get you in shape for this. Now, just like a manager, they can give you some opinions and say,
yeah, like you think certain people should be competing and you don't agree if they sit out, you know?
Sometimes, yeah. And sometimes their coach will, and this happens where a coach will have 4 or 5 people and they'll strategically make sure their athletes don't go against each other. And sometimes, I mean, sometimes the reason is valid, but sometimes it's not valid and it's not good for that particular athlete, but it's good for the coach. And I think there needs to be more athletes need to take control of what they do.
Do you think a coach should coach multiple people in the same contest, same division?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't.
I don't know if I agree with it.
I'll say this. I
think it's a conflict.
I can see why it could be it depends on the coach. I think some coaches are super professional and they say, hey, I got Jay Cutler, I got Ronnie Coleman. I'm going to make Ronnie as best as he can be. I'm going to make Jay as best as he can be. They're both going to be the best they can be. Where they place is out of my hands. Mm-hmm. There are some coaches that can do that. There are some coaches that I think it can be.
You know why I think it's a conflict? I'll tell you why I think it's a conflict, because I feel like when someone, say the top guy has, you're helping 4 people in the same, like say for the Mr. Olympia, you know, and I'm winning. I feel that the person that kind of handles me and all the other people might look at it and say, okay, well, I'm doing this with Jay. Let me try it with this person. Let me try it with that person.
I understand
right?
That. Yeah.
Because there's certain protocol we all do.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start. There's certain, like there's training protocol. Mm-hmm. There's cardio protocol. There's drugs. There's food.
Yeah.
Right. So as you know, okay, none of us are medical experts.
Yes.
Okay. There's no one in bodybuilding that's a top professional that's like a doctor or someone that knows, okay, if I take this or I take that. That's, you know, so it's all trial and error, right? I mean, it's all like going by what so-and-so said.
Yes.
Right? Which is crazy, right? There's like, okay, well, if you take this, you know, you get more cut up, or you take this, you have less water. There's certain protocol. No one really knows the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like hearsay of like, well, so-and-so did this, and that's how it kind of carried over, and here we are 30 years later, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, we've learned that foods have made a dramatic difference. Yeah. I mean, people can't eat oat. Like I was a guy that, like Hani didn't like me eating oatmeal, which I ate all the way through with Chris Aceto, and then I switched to grits. Like this morning I had grits for breakfast.
Yeah.
It just digests different for me.
And you wouldn't have known that if you wouldn't have switched coaches.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So I would have stayed with it.
I understand
but
that.
The gluten bothers people's stomachs. So it's like everyone's going to find their angle, but at the same time, like I just think that it is a little bit of a conflict, because it's all trial and error through your whole career. There's no one that could say, okay, I did the same exact thing every single show. I did the same cardio, same training, same weights, same protocols. It's always different.
If you would have done all that, you would not be successful. You have to maneuver. No, I understand. I understand the argument.
But on the outside, people used to say, why didn't you just go back to what you did? And, you know, a lot of us did that. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, I looked great at this show. I'm going to try to go back to doing 2 hours of cardio and doing 50 grams of carbs on a low-carb day. And it just doesn't work over and over and over. And I think that with certain coaches, you know, they take, like, it's almost automatic. Like, if someone's having great success, they're like, damn, that's working well for him. I'm going to pass it over to here. And
like I said, for me personally, it would be hard for me if I was a coach to have multiple people in the same division going against each other.
But no coach should make a decision on this is how you should do your. I mean, I think, like Phil Heath didn't compete in those Olympias for how many years?
I think 2.
Because Hani didn't want him to. But the question is, like, did Phil want to and place 10th, or he placed 3rd in his first Mr. Olympia? Yeah. Do you agree with that?
I don't know whose decision it was, but I would hope if Phil didn't want to, I would have hoped that was his decision. I'm assuming it was. Hani probably gave him some input, but then, hey, this is my advice, and you can take it or leave it. Even for me, like when I have multiple people in a show that I manage or work with, it's hard for me. And nothing I do affects their diet or whatever else. I just handle their business. But you don't know what you think you know when it comes to bodybuilding. Yeah.
Because you never did it.
Yeah, no. What I mean is it's hard.
So how the fuck can you give someone advice on how to eat and train?
No. None of that. That's not what I'm talking about. So
business only.
I'm saying for me, it's hard when I have 2 people in a show. It's hard for me as a manager because one of them's going to do better than the other, and one of them I'm going to be excited for, and then I'm going to be sad for this person. So it's hard for me, but nothing I do affects their prep or I don't give them any of that advice. So as a coach, sometimes I think about that. Like, imagine if you had 2 guys in a show, one wins and one loses. You got to be super excited for one, but then you're cheering for one. And at the same time, you're like, oh shit, my other guy lost. So it's got to be hard, but I would have a hard time doing it. But some people can completely separate that and say, hey, I have a job to get people in shape, and I'm going to put them in front of the judges at the best they can be. And the judges, squared it out. I remember when I think Chad Nichols talked about that. He had like a bunch of people in one Olympia, like 5 or 6 people in that top level or in the first call out. And he said, hey, I just get them all in shape. But then let's just say you're an athlete and you have a coach that another guy looks better than you. Is it going to fuck with your head and go, man, did the coach do something different for him than me? So that's tough. I mean, did in your career, did any coach ever dictate what shows you did or? Nah,
Chris Aceto he's like, I would like bounce stuff off of him. Like, should I sit out? Like, let's say 2000 to 2001, should I compete? And he's like, just get bigger in the off season. Cause he knew I needed to improve. So I think his opinion mattered to me. And
but
when
he didn't make the decision though.
No, but when I worked with Chris, like he only worked with me. Like, I was the only one. And then I remember he came to me and said, I want to help Victor Martinez. I actually convinced him to work with Victor. Yeah. And he started working with Victor, but I had no fear of these guys catching up to me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't fear that. And maybe that was just some arrogance, but like, I always thought I was superior to everyone anyway. So it really didn't matter. Even when I worked with, with Hani and it was like Phil and I, 1-2, like people would say, isn't that kind of a, it's kind of a little controversial, don't you think? But like one was better than the other at certain times. And then of course, Phil turned around and beat me. I was towards the end and had an injury and whatever else. And, I still think, Phil looked amazing that year, but I think I would have been on point and been able to win and secure another one, even if a lot of people thought in 2010 Phil could have taken it. It just wasn't his time yet, when you're the champ, it's just, you have that on your side. But
when you were competing, when did you, cause this is something I deal with now and I always have where a certain time frame out, some sponsors still want people to do stuff. They still want to travel here. At what point did you say no? And why did you do that?
I stopped, usually, I had basically like contracts with guest appearances. So I would do Steve Weinberger's show in early June with Ronnie Coleman. And then I would do Lonnie Teeper's West Coast Classic, which was like 2 weeks later, but it was California. It was close. I could drive. So it was always like the last guest posing. Remember, we did Mannion show in May. And then early June, it was Ronnie and myself guest posing at the Bev France Atlantic States. And that would be the end.
That was beginning of June?
Yeah, beginning of June. And then I would do Lonnie's show, and that would put me at like 11, 12 weeks out, whatever.
And that was just a drive.
And that was a drive. So I was done by that point. I refused everything after that unless it was in driving distance to California, whether it's a photo shoot or I used to do like Pete Ciccone 619 Muscle Bash in August.
Yeah.
But I would be hidden because, number one, back then we showed up places with our clothes off. Like we would guest pose, right?
Yeah.
Or if I showed up at a guest appearance, I wasn't a guy that wore a sweatshirt, or I would wear a tank top, right? Because people come to flex the arms and all that stuff. So I tried to stay underground because people had a lot of judgment towards me. Like I didn't have a lot of veins, right? Yeah. That was one thing. I wasn't super vascular.
It's like a genetic thing.
So people would be like, oh, Jay's not veiny. He's 8 weeks out. You know, he's not in shape. You know, it just, my arms never really appeared super shredded.
Yeah.
And you know, that was one thing that always kind of bothered me a little bit, to be honest. Like my legs were shredded and, you know, I had great abs and I was lean always from the front more than anything. Yeah. It's just my backside always came in last. But I mean, when I would go to an appearance, like I was big as hell, but like I would always show my legs or my abs because those were the body parts that stood out the most. But the arms were never like that. Like they never really blew people away, right? So people judged me a lot based on pictures they had seen or whatever else. Remember, it wasn't Instagram then; it was only like
magazines.
It was magazines, and then there was some media, like it was YouTube and stuff. Like there was things like that. So even when I'd show up at the press conference, you know, the forearms weren't all leaned out and everything, and people were like, oh, and you know, my face never really got sucked down heavy. Yeah. So people would always be like, oh, Jay's not in condition. You know, and then obviously I'd take my clothes off. And I think, you know, in 2009, the face was a little more chiseled in a couple of those contests. But, you know, I never really I was a lot bigger because I was competing with Ronnie. And, you know, I really, you know, people used to be judgmental about that. But I would shut it down, like basically say, hey, I'm not traveling across the country or doing anything. I would honestly never go overseas anyway, even at like the peak of my career. It just wasn't my thing. And, you know, maybe once or twice a year I did like Body Power and FIBO or something once.
But those were in April and May.
Yeah.
It wasn't contest shutdown yet.
I didn't really do a lot.
So the basic question is, what's the reason? Why would you?
Because I needed to get my food and I needed to train in the atmosphere that it did. It was so crucial for me to go to the gym and know exactly what bench press, machines, dumbbells, the feel of everything. Mm-hmm. I had to have that routine. Yeah. It was very, very, very important for me to wake up at a time, get my cardio in, eat my food in the abundance that I did, because eating out, you could not get 12 to 16 ounces of meat and 100 grams of clean carbs. It was impossible. And we didn't have food service then. Yeah. So when we had to pack our Tupperware, dude, it was like you had bags like full, like, you know, to fit, you know, 12 ounces of meat or whatever, or fish.
You'd have a full cooler.
Yeah, you'd have a full cooler. So for me, like, especially in the fish times, like eating a pound of fish every meal, like you can't go get a pound of fish anywhere. Like you're not going to a restaurant and ordering, like you can order 8 ounces of chicken breast, but you can't get a pound of white fish, right? No.
And if they do, it's going to cost you $100.
And that's really what that's what I dieted on. So, or eating egg whites in the morning, eating 30 egg whites. Like, where am I going to get that? We weren't drinking egg whites necessarily back then. So
you had to crack them yourself.
Yeah. So if I had to go to a restaurant and order 30 egg whites, they'd be like, what the, you know, it'd be costing me a fortune. Yeah. So I knew that I had to stay home and focus on the training, and also the stress of traveling. If I got delayed and I missed a meal, like, dude, I did not miss meals. Like, it was from 16 weeks down, it was fucking clockwork. And that's how I trained at full capacity every day. I trained at the same fucking time, and I trained twice a day a lot. I would do cardio twice a day. So it was 4 sessions a day that I needed to be zoned in to do what I do. And if I had to go to an appearance, or I was in traffic, or like talking to someone, I just couldn't even deal with speaking to people.
I remember.
Like, I just didn't even want to talk to anyone at all, because I was so focused on that one goal. And remember, that was my bread and butter. Like, that secured the contracts. It secured the revenue. It built what today you see. So if I wasn't as consistent in being second, what if I would have fallen to 6th and then gone to 3rd? And like, you see that now with a lot of guys' career. that doesn't set the standard for the long-term legacy of what you did, right? We can sit here and brag and say, man, I was top 2 in the world for 12 years straight. Like, who's done that, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't win 10 Olympias, but I won 4 and I was second 6 times. But that was a span over 12 years I did that. And it was the consistency that made me great. And it's the consistency today in all my business and matters. I still get up and do the same. I got up and did my cardio this morning, did my phone calls, ate a great breakfast, came down here, I still have a sequence of how I do things. And I think people lack that now because of fucking social media.
Yeah.
Because they waste time on that phone, seeing what everyone else is doing, and it fucks with your head and says, hey, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I need to live this life.
So the way you are now, imagine 2005 Jay Cutler. Would you have been able to handle things the way you are now then? I mean, obviously you don't know, but just your opinion. Would you have been able to handle social media in that?
Yeah, because I was still doing the DVDs. And I was, I was doing all that stuff. I was doing the appearances.
But the DVDs was, no, I'm just saying once you shut it down, like, when you're 16 weeks out, would it have been something where you would have said, okay, I need to budget 1 hour a day for social media, and maybe it's 6 o'clock at night.
I would have been, you
would have found a way.
I would have found a way to do it
to incorporate it,
to make the adjustment. Because one thing I was always great at was the consistency, and number 2, I wasn't fucking lazy. I didn't play video games. I didn't watch television, dude. I didn't even have the mindset to sit and watch a fucking movie. Yeah. Because I would think about 12 other things, or think about how I was going to transition against Ronnie Coleman, or if Gunter was coming up, or Dexter Jackson, or Phil Heath, or whoever else. Like, I had to envision myself 24 hours a day on what I was going to do to win. Yeah. And that's how I thought. So for me, I had to take that when I took myself away from competitive bodybuilding and put it into my lifestyle and structure. And listen, I'm in a very comfortable spot. Like, there's not a lot of stress in my life, but I'm a very easygoing, like, you've traveled with me and we've been in situations, and I'm like, well, what the fuck are we going to do? Where other people are like, oh my God, you don't hear me lose my shit too much on too many things. I'm just like, it's not life changing. Right.
And if someone's shit needs to get lost, you have me do it.
Yeah, that's what's nice about. I'm smart enough now. Like, one thing you're great at is traveling, because, like, you like to do it.
Yeah.
And you've done it enough where the experience is better. So I just, like, notice when you go check us in a hotel, I'll sit in the corner. I don't even want to talk to the people. Yeah. When we have cars lined up to do appearances, you handle the appearance stuff with them. Yeah. I don't even want to, like, deal with, like,
makes it easier, because at the end of the day, your job is to go there and
show up
and make the fans happy.
And I'm zoned in already. If we're doing a meet and greet, like, I'm already like, okay, how am I going to handle this crowd, and how am I going to create conversation to the nervous people? How am I going to address the opening of this? Like, 'cause how many times we gone to, like, a military and I've done the speeches or whatever, right? Yeah. Like, I try to zone in and do that kind of that thinking process, Yeah. And it just makes it easier. But, we have a lot of stuff coming up right now.
Yeah.
The shows are kicking off. I am involved in the Boston Pro now, which is happening on March 12th in Boston. So
I like that, because that's where it all started for you.
And it's still
going on. Now there's a pro show there.
Yeah. And
that's
I mean,
awesome.
They're having, first prize for the men's bodybuilding is $12,500 in a Ford pickup truck.
Ford F-150. Yep.
And which is really cool. Which is really awesome. I mean, men's physique is a $10,000 total prize. It's like $7,000 for first. Man, Aaron Banks, was second at the Olympia. He's all signed up to do it. We know Regan's in the bodybuilding.
Yarishna's doing it.
Yarishna's doing it for wellness. I don't know if she.
I think you're going to get a lot of older stuff.
Truscott just signed up for the fitness.
You're going to have a lot of big names from the Arnold, because it's a week after.
It's a week after. It's Boston. It's at the Sheraton Hotel. BostonPro.com is a website. We have Akon performing in a separate event, which is, we talked about your relationship there. So that's a little different. Different. I mean, it's still kind of like, where does that relate to a bodybuilding? But we talk about entertainment.
Yeah.
We talk about other activities, right? It is March in Boston, Massachusetts. It's one of the most incredible cities to visit. There's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
There is the North End, which is great to eat. You know, you're going to be in that vicinity. But what you said is really, really cool because I started in Worcester, Mass, but I always say Boston. But the greats like Paul DeMeo, you know, Mike Matarazzo, you know, Victor Terra, all those guys came out of that area. You know, Jose Raymond's still there.
Yeah.
He carries the moniker of the Boston Mass, you know, so he's part of that whole community. And it's just really cool that this is going to happen.
Yeah. I like it that, because obviously I see stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's cool that there's an event coming up that's thinking outside the box and is really excited to be part of it. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens to be where it started for you. And now here you are coming back full circle. And
yeah. And I mean, Ronnie's going to be there.
Yep.
Phil Heath is going to be there. Flex Wheeler's going to be there.
It's going to be a great show.
Tito Ortiz is coming. I mean,
I'm sure they'll add more people.
Yeah. Brandon Curry just came on to be an appearance, a meet and greet person.
Yeah.
He's not going to compete, but he's doing the Arnold the week prior. So more than likely
I'm surprised he didn't want to snag that truck.
He's our prediction. I don't know. You know, he's probably looking at the $200,000 from the Arnold.
Hey, $200,000 in a truck the next week.
I'm hoping Kuklo comes over and competes.
Yeah.
I'm sure the winner, whoever wins the Arnold, probably won't want to go over there.
Hey, a truck's a truck, and trucks are hard to get nowadays because of supply chain.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool that Ford sponsored that, and local Ford dealer. So
we got that, and then the Arnold's a week before, and I mean, we're about 6.5 weeks out, so we're going to start getting some. We're going to hopefully start seeing more stuff come out, progress come out of the guys, and more pictures coming out, and I'm sure we'll do a Arnold Classic preview.
Is it going to be the William Bonnick, Brandon Curry showdown once again? Or are we going to see someone sneak in?
Someone asked me yesterday, and I'm not going to make a prediction because
next episode, let's talk about the lineup because it's getting kind of to that.
Okay, we'll keep
because I don't know who we're going to predict yet, but
yeah, no, I think it's
is Brandon training in Kuwait right now?
Yeah, I'll say this: it's very hard to bet against Brandon because in the last 3 years, he won the Arnold, he won the Olympia, and then he's got second and second. He's only lost to Big Ramy, and he beat Phil Heath in that second year. So he's only lost to the reigning Mr. Olympia the last 3 years. You would assume he's the front runner. Besides him, it's kind of wide open. Like there's guys that might get 10th place if they're off, that if they were absolutely peeled could get second.
Yeah, I think Bonnick has a good chance, though.
He does. He does. But, hey, look, I mean, what did he get this year at the Olympia? 6th, I think. Yeah, I mean, he placed behind Nick and Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
So by guys seeing that, they're going, hey, like you could take a Brett Wilkins where he got second to Hunter at Chicago, and in his mind, he's probably like, well, Hunter's 4th in the world right now. If I got second to him, maybe I could beat all these other guys too. So there's got to be a confidence booster there. But there's a lot of, I think it's going to be a very competitive, interesting Arnold, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I won it in 02, 3, and 4, which is pretty amazing.
Yep.
I won Hummer trucks, 3 Hummer trucks, and
you still have all 3 of them sitting on top of your...
Yeah, which is really, really cool. So, I'm looking... I don't know. There's other shows, though. Is there other contests after that?
The next... I think
Australia's not happening, right?
There's some in April. I forgot what shows there are in April, and then obviously May... You're going to have a Steve show, the New York Pro, and I think there's Indianapolis is like the week before. But if I remember right, after those 2 shows, there's a little bit of a break.
Okay.
And then the shows really ramp up. So going into this year's Olympia, obviously it looks like Nick Walker and Hunter are sitting out. Obviously, Ramy's not going to compete. And the only other person in that top 5 that's competing is Brandon. Mm-hmm. So we're assuming that Nick and Hunter are going to do what they can to improve, to hopefully move up ahead of some of those guys that were ahead of them. So we're looking forward to this year. You want to get to some questions?
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of them, but the first one will say, will Cutler Nutrition come out with a protein bar?
Never say never.
What would be
it's not on... Is it on my bucket list for 22? No.
Yeah.
And the only reason is we spoke about this the other day is supply chain.
Yeah.
I know right now, like one of the businesses that I'm not going to say, but one of the businesses that makes bars is like way behind in production. Mm-hmm. But I think a bar in this field is very competitive, but I think it's a little bit of luck of, your marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Meaning like you have to market it the right way in order to do it correct. But I would look at, to be honest, I've looked more towards functional food than a bar.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain size bar I would do it in if I did a bar. I wouldn't go for these big, large bars anymore. Yeah. I think that's kind of overrated a little bit, but I would look towards something that's kind of like a hybrid or something,
Yeah. I always, bars is just, to me, it's risky. It's kind of like coming out with an energy drink. There's 10,000 of them in that space.
Yeah. We have low blinders bars over here somewhere.
They're really good.
Yeah.
They are. But there's, when you're coming out, in my opinion, when you're coming out with a bar, technically you're competing against like Snickers and stuff too. Yeah. And I know it's not the same, but in some people's minds, they grab it, open it, and eat it. So you're competing against thousands and thousands of brands. But if you come out with a certain functional food, there might not be as many.
What's your son's favorite candy bar? Anything with chocolate. Yeah. I was a Three Musketeers, honestly, growing up.
I always like Kit Kat.
I like that Three Musketeers, like the whipped inside, like, because it's like very light, right?
So why don't you come out with Jay Cutler, the chocolate bar, like just something just has nothing to do with fitness. Yeah. Let's just call it a pig bar, and we're just gonna fucking make a big fat round pig.
You never know.
It'd probably work. Jay, I work a busy schedule with work. It's hard for me to get down meals every 3 hours. Should I force extra meals down at night to make sure I get enough calories?
Force feed yourself every 2.5, 3 hours. You cannot force feed extra meals at night to make up for your loss during the day. You need to eat on a sequence of every 2.5 to 3 hours. You hear this, J-Mac?
Yeah.
How are you putting on your weight? I know, but do you eat, like, you think every hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? Okay, every 2. I was at 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I eat every 2 hours, and I would eat by my clock.
I've heard some people say, like, oh, I missed a meal, so I'm going to eat 2 before I go to bed. I'm like, you can't do that.
No, it
doesn't work.
You can't, like, you can do that once in a, like, you can have your cheat meal, and it will help your metabolism, but you can't do that on a consistent basis, every 2.5, 3 hours.
It says, I listen on Spotify. I'm a business junkie and would love to hear about Jay's businesses. What does he own? Are they LLC, C Corps, etc.?
Yeah, I have, my main couple businesses, which is, my business that handles appearances, the websites for not related to supplements. Supplements is a different website, and an LLC. So those are my main businesses, is like the bodybuilding side, and then obviously the supplement business. And then what falls in the bodybuilding side is like investments and other stuff too. It's under one.
Those are probably most likely S Corps because it's just you.
Yeah,
right?
It's just me. Yeah.
Now, what about what if you have like a business partner?
I don't have. I have partners, like a business partner, but I have businesses that I have partners in, but I'm still listed under a different LLC. I'm more of an investor.
Okay. What do you think about business partners?
It's, you have to have the vision. Sometimes you feed off each other, but, I'm more of like a reserved, rather than a shrewd business guy. So sometimes someone that has their expertise is necessary to have success, right? I don't like to do a lot of partnerships, like as far as business partners. Yeah. It's not necessarily my thing because I have a certain vision and I work 24 hours.
Yeah.
And as that's been a little bit of frustration for me in business in general because people don't work around the clock and don't care as much as you, right? No. Even someone that owns a piece of something, I'm very enthusiastic when it comes to business.
I get that a lot where, look, I'll message someone at 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, well, when you wake up, respond, because if it's on my mind and I want to deal with it, I don't want to go, I'll talk to them. No, I'm going to send it right now. I don't call people that late, but there's, I was thinking about this the other day, like when you see like businesses that have multiple owners, I can't think, and I'm sure there are, but I can't think of any that have been around for like, let's say like a decade, where they've had 2 partners and it worked out. Like usually there's something like one doesn't work as hard, or one has a different vision, or like it just seems better if, like with Cutler Nutrition, for example, you are the owner. Mm-hmm. So no matter the direction it's going is solely on your desire and what you make it do. But if there was, say, I was a partner of Cutler Nutrition and I owned half of it, you might not make that decision that you would do if it's just yours. And you might go, oh, well, maybe Matt won't like this.
I don't think I think people have their place. And, if I had like investors come in, obviously I would only look at investors that would bring a different positive, projection to what I wanted to do, right? And better know all. Like that's the thing. Yeah. I'm a little limited on what I can actually do or my knowledge, right? So, and I admit that, like I'm good at certain things, but to take things to another level, we talk about this all the time. If the company didn't grow one bit from here forward, but as long as it maintained, like I'm still pretty proud of what it does, right?
1,500.
Because, yeah, I mean, I actually, I make a difference in people's lives, and it's positive, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather have it on a smaller scale positive than on a huge scale. And we talk about scale ups all the time, how far you want to take it. But like I told you, I'm not trying to create that much more chaos in my life.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I'm very strategic on how I plan to do things. And I'm a little reserved. I'm a little conservative. I'm not super aggressive because I don't need to be. I was more aggressive 10, 15, 20 years ago, when I was going out there and, I got into the real estate and all that stuff. And I couldn't balance too many things because I was so dedicated to bodybuilding. And now, like I told you, like I just, for my life, I'm very comfortable with what I do. So, a partner could work, but right now I'm very limited on decision-making partners and what I do. Yeah. I'm invested in certain things, and I'm not calling all the shots on certain, but I have confidence in, okay, those people help, I've invested in it for a reason, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So that's
episode 19.
Yeah. So we'll be coming back with episode 20. I can't believe it's been 20 episodes. Thank you guys for following along, and make sure you guys subscribe, make sure you like. Make sure you guys comment below if you have any comments about what we spoke about today. Yeah, we did get into quite a bit with the athletes and up and coming. Some of you guys that are up and coming, you follow our podcast and you want to break through in the fitness stuff. And what I can tell you today is, like, you don't have to, like we spoke about, win something, but get vocal on your social media in a positive way. Like, the things that you think aren't maybe attractive to people are the things that mean the most, right? People want to see how it's done. People want to see how a lifestyle is lived, and we are going to watch people rise. We're going to be talking about in a year or two, totally different people, that are going to be figureheads and whatever else. And it's all circumstance, but take advantage of the opportunity.
And especially the guys that are coming up now, Jay's doing a lot of this stuff, and he puts a lot of information out, and he's put the blueprint out to how to be successful. It's right in front of you. And I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't see that. So I'm just coming right out and saying it. Jay has put the blueprint in front of you on how to be successful. You don't have to do it just like he did, but stay active, stay in front of people. He hasn't competed in 10 years, and he's still in front of people. People like Dana Lynn are still in front of people. Michael Hearn still in front of people. So if these guys are doing this and they're 10 years removed, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing it, because you can be that next voice that goes right to the top. But when you get there, you don't want to be that person that doesn't have that value behind them. And so just pay attention to what the people that are wildly successful in this industry that have had a successful career and have built a brand and are still successful beyond their competitive stage. Because we know a lot of people that have competed that are not successful when they're done. And they should be. And they probably didn't do the same things you did for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that you have all the answers, but there's a blueprint there. You can take that blueprint, you can add on to it, you can change some things, but the foundation is there. So just really,
just be true to yourself, man. Yeah. Just be true to yourself and find your path and, go after it, man. 2022, we're at it. So,
yep.
All right. So episode 19, guys, checking out and stay focused.
We're up.